Hey guys, Andy here, Pittsburgh White Schwartz. Today we're going to be looking at DanMachi, or how to pick up girls in a dungeon in the competitive environment. The set came out very recently in Japanese, just a few weeks ago, and we're getting a release of it in English sometime next year in 2020, 2022. Don't know when, but it's coming. The set's been out for a few weeks, like I said, but to little fanfare. I figured there would be a lot more discussion in the community about the set, considering how popular of a franchise, how popular of a show DanMachi is. But I haven't really been seeing a whole lot of that, so I had to hit the lab myself and see what I could brew up here. So let's take a start by looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Why would you pick up and play DanMachi, competitively speaking? I think the most obvious strength of the set that I found is that it has the unique ability to be able to beat standby boards on offense with a 8 Global Soul Trigger deck. Usually it's kind of hard to contest standby boards, especially if you're not playing standby yourself, especially against the 8 standby decks. But DanMachi actually seems to have the tools to be able to do that. You have a very, very strong mid game with the set. Your level 1 combo, the premier level 1 combo in the set, the Bell combo, gets a shitload of power depending on how many event cards you have in your graveyard. And he tops off at 11,500 with the climax, which is absolutely massive at level 1. No matter what type of standby deck your opponent's playing, you will be able to get the reverse of that. And the level 1 combo is very consistent to set up as well, considering you have Pants Trigger in the deck to help you find it in the meta build. And the fact that a lot of the event cards that the combo runs off of help you find your level 1 bells for the combo. And then once you get into level 2 and can start dropping your early plays, you have a backbreaker with the Ice early play, which it's kind of like the Shirogane in Kaguya. One of the strongest cards in the current metagame, being able to get to huge amounts of power and turn off your opponent's backups, and then clock kick the threat to memory. The Ice doesn't heal like the Shirogane or clock kick like the Shirogane, but it actually gets bigger than Shirogane. If you have the extra copy of itself in your level, and you have the experience condition, on the turn you play the Ice, it sits at 15k and gets hexproof, so your opponent can't target it. No shenanigans. No, don't have to worry about Dow leveling you down with an event card, or your big beefy early play getting blinked and losing all of its power. Your opponent is going to be forced to crash into your 15k. And they're not going to be able to back up their character to defend it when you swing, so they're going to be swinging something small probably into this, or having to rebuild their field and swing into it, and it's going to be... You get to crack the standby player's board, which is very, very important. And at level 2, like the overall mid game is very strong with this set in general. Not just the Ice early play, but the set also has 2 really good early play healers. 2 of the best early play healers I've seen printed in a while. And it just leads to the deck really hitting its stride in the mid game. And overall, you have fantastic deck speed and filtering. You're going to have no problem getting through your first deck, even if it's not compressed. Your level 1 combo is going to get you the Torch event, which can let you mill through your deck on your opponent's turn if you have bad compression, or if you got lucky and have really good compression, a lot of climaxes in your deck, you can just take advantage of that and save the torches for later. And you get even additional benefits off the torch as well. The Brainstormer has an additional filtering effect. Whenever you play an event card, you get to draw a card and discard a card. Looking at some of the weaknesses of the set, in exchange for having such a powerful mid game, you have an atrocious, like, absolutely terrible level 0 game. Building this set, it's very challenging to. It can be challenging to get out of level 0, and that's definitely for a few factors. Um, Probably the biggest issue is that you're forced to run such a low count of level 0s if you want to play the good level 1 combo, because it just forces you to run so many event cards in your deck. And it's not that the event cards are bad. The event cards are very good on their own. The one event card being able to just salvage anything out of your graveyard for free, and the other being the torch event. But it just takes up a lot of deck spots. And since you have such a large incentive to be playing early plays and higher level characters, it can be tough to find room to have enough level 0s in the set to have slots for. And the level 0s that you do have in the set really aren't that good. The set's missing a lot of modern day niceties that a lot of other sets have. Set doesn't have a runner. Set doesn't have a clean cut. They have a clean cut. It's a weird janky clean cut. Not a good one, though. And overall, just not a lot of ways to plus on board at level 0. Not a lot of high quality cards. So you kind of just got to maintain through level 0 and try to get to level 1 as quick as you can. Another weakness of the deck, which I touched on a little bit about the level 0 game, is that you have to run so many event cards. The event packages are so bloated. And outside of the level 1 combo, which requires 2 separate event cards in high quantities to be run, there's a lot of other solid event cards you might want to run in the set, and a lot of good cards to facilitate that. There's a level 0 Hestia that helps you top check your deck to be able to draw into your event cards. And some of the other event cards will have bonders or ways to make those packages more consistent, but you don't even have room to run those good packages because you already are taking up so many deck slots with the level 1 combo. But when we get into the deck lists here, there are ways to run higher counts of the events. Some very interesting workarounds that'll be fun to talk about here. And then coming out of the mid game with the set, you also don't really have much at the top to drive it home. The finishers in the set are overall pretty weak. There's only really 2 climax combo finishers. The one Hestia Finisher, which is the preferred finisher, it's solid, it's okay, but it just doesn't have a lot of reach. It's very efficient and is a good burn combo for what it is, but if you fall behind, it's not going to be the miracle that brings you back into it. You kind of have to have a good game up to that point, and then this card will be able to let you finish the game. And then there's a yellow finisher as well, but again, that doesn't have a ton of reach. Just lets you scry your opponent's deck and try to confirm clean damage, but as you know, Mocha's never killed anybody. You'll overswing, and they'll just cancel on the 4th hit anyway. And then you'll be pretty screwed, because that's a pretty expensive combo. So yeah, getting into some more of the nitty-gritty here, let's look at some of the other early plays here. Over here on the left, we have the Hestia early play. Literal translation is Lollygod Hestia. Hopefully we get that translation in English. That'd be pretty funny. This is basically just the Ilya early play from Fate Stay Night. You can play it a level early at level 2 if you have the Hestia Brainstormer in your clock. So as long as you hold a Hestia Brainstormer in your hand going into your level 2, you just clock it for turn, and then you'll be able to drop down your early play healers. And the nice thing about this early play condition is you can play multiple early play healers very easily off of it. You don't have to worry about having a certain number of climaxes in your waiting room, or filling up your board too much for it, or having a weird, unreasonable condition to meet. The Brainstorm's one of the best cards in the deck, and you're going to be running a high count of it anyway, so having an extra copy to clock is really no big deal. And even better, this healer actually heals from the bottom of your clock. So if you end up clocking the Brainstormer for turn and you want to drop a couple of these healers, you heal from the bottom so you don't heal off your early play condition, which is nice. Which can also mean on the next turn, after you take some damage, hopefully you're still in level 2. You can drop down some more Hestia early plays and heal some more. Overall, I found that the deck builds a lot of stock at level 1. You don't really spend your stock on a whole lot because all of your event cards are free. So once you hit level 2, you just slam down a bunch of early plays, whether it's the Hestia, or this next card, this Bell early play. He is a full field early play, and whenever he attacks, you get 2 markers under him from your waiting room. The Hestia Sword Event, that is crucial to the level 1 combo, and then the other red Sword Event at level 1, which works off of a different climax combo that you're probably not playing. So it's kind of awkward to sleeve up that other red event card at level 1. But the good thing is, if you want to run those event cards so that this Bell can reach his maximum power of 10,500 and get you the most markers under him to compress you, it's possible to splash in the red sword events without disrupting your deck flow too much. You're probably not running 4 copies. This is definitely your secondary. Like this early play healer is secondary to your Hestia, essentially being like your 5th, 6th copy. But it pairs really nicely with the full field condition. So, and any of these early plays pair very nicely with each other in combination because they all have easy to meet different conditions. But yeah, as far as the Bell goes, if you were already playing the 1/0 sword or think that you can make room for it, I think this is a very strong payoff card for choosing to run that sword, letting you really double down on your healing package at level 2, and getting some nice marker compression to boot. And even if you encore the Bell and he lives another turn to attack, even if he lost his markers, he gets the markers on attack so he can get big again. Unlike something like Rem from ReZero, where if it gets blinked or something, you lose your markers forever. And then the last early play here is the one I mentioned earlier, the Ice. 2 or less climaxes, you can early play it, and it sits at 15,000 power cross turn with hexproof. This is, along with the level 1 Bell combo, which hits like over 10,000 power at level 1, that Bell level 1 combo and this Ice are going to be what lets you really combat the standby decks if the metagame continues to be very early play and standby focused, which, spoiler alert, it probably will be. And honestly, this card's just fantastic. In some ways, it's even better than the Shirogane from Kaguya, which is really just one of the best early plays in the game right now, and it's one of the reasons Kaguya is performing so well in both metagames, the Japanese and English. The card's just insane, being able to guaranteed swing over your opponent's big, beefy standbys, with them not being able to back up, and then being big on your opponent's turn. So after you clear your opponent's field, they're going to have to crash into your big character again. So, and the fact that this has hexproof means any outs that your opponent has for something like a Shirogane or the Sayaka from Madoka Magica is a lot like that too, where it gets a lot of power and turns off backups. But there's literally just no answer to this Ice. Your opponent can't blink it to make you lose the power. They can't anti-change you with a counter when you attack. Even if you swing with another lane, they can't because it just has hexproof as an effect. And even if you're playing against something like Kaguya, your Ice sits bigger than their Shirogane. So even against Kaguya, you can contest the early plays. Not every DanMachi deck I've seen has really been running this Ice. I haven't really seen any decks really playing it or taking advantage of it, and I think that's kind of crazy. I think the niche that DanMachi really falls into is being an 8 global soul deck able to win board against standby, and I think this ice is a very big part of that. And it's really not difficult at all to splash into your deck, so I think it's something over time people will shift towards and try to accommodate. Or at least I think you should try it out. Going a little more in depth here at DanMachi's level 0 game, I said earlier that their level 0 game really sucks. So we kind of have to make the best with what we got here. It's not unsalvageable, but it can be tough for a number of reasons. Getting into it here. Just taking a drink of water here. Probably the best level 0 in the set, and which is actually a godsend that they have, is this, I don't know the actual name, but it's the Covered in Snot Hestia, referring to the Covered in Snot Aqua from Konosuba. That ability being, when this character gets reversed, you mill the top 2 cards of your deck, and if you hit a level 2 or higher card, you get to send this Hestia to your stock. Really fantastic ability, and synergizes very nicely with the deck. Since you want to be playing so many early plays and higher level cards to begin with, you're more than likely going to hit a level 2 or level 3 card with the mill. So being able to get something for free when your level 0 character dies is always nice. And getting the extra stock plays right into the strategy of slamming down a bunch of early plays, because you need a lot of stock to do that. So overall, that's a really nice effect. And then it's actually one of the few true plussing level 0s in the set. If you have 2 or less characters on the field when you attack with it, you get to mill the top card of your deck, and if it's a level 0 character, it gets to go on your backstage rested. So, very nice opening play, for sure. Yeah, definitely the card. If you're going first, this is definitely the card you drop down. Either this or the Ice Chaser if you have it. And going second even, you probably don't want to be tri-fielding anyway. That's pretty risky, generally speaking. So even if you're dual fielding, you still get a shot at getting this effect off. Overall, I'd say that Hestia is probably the best level 0 in the set. Moving on here, we have the 2 oversizes of the set. There is this 3500 Bell, which is 2 or less stock, conditioned to be sit at 3500, and on play, he gets to scry the top card of your deck. Combined with all the random drawing effects the set has, like the Hestia Brainstorm being able to draw and discard when you play an event, or even combining that scry with your Torch event or the red event that draws a card, can be really nice, just to be able to see what you're drawing into, or just letting you get 5-card brainstorms, or just going to attacks with a clean trigger. You never hate to scry. And you'll also see I've written there, this Bell is also named Bell. He is also a Bell card, which is important later on when we talk about the level 1 combo and the event packages. You need to have characters with Bell and Hestia in name on your field. And you would think that wouldn't be that difficult to achieve, and it's not, but it's sometimes a bit more awkward than you would like. And it's really annoying that there are so few good Bell cards specifically in the set that are any good. This is one of the standouts, and that's really not saying much. So, definitely a reason you would consider running this Bell over probably the much better Ice Chaser, which I'll talk about next, is that this card actually has Bell in name, and retains its usefulness throughout the game with the scry ability more than the Ice will. But yeah, the 3500 Chaser, this yellow ice, this is hands down the best level 0 profile in the entire set as far as a plussing level 0 like on turn 1 for you goes. I still think the Hestia Summoner is still a better card overall, but this ice is like the only good true field plus that you have in this set. You have an easy to meet condition with 2 or less field on it. And just being able to run out of the way of anything troublesome of your opponent. If your opponent puts something bigger in front of this, you can run out of the way. You completely screw over your opponent's clean cut plays. Just overall, a very good card. But some unfortunate aspects about it that keep it from just being a slam dunk 4 of in the deck is just it has such poor synergy with a lot of other cards in the set, specifically the level 1 Hestia, or the level 0 Hestia Summoner here. The 2 or less field condition can actually be pretty awkward. It makes it difficult for you to be able to try field, because you don't get the power unless you have 2 or less field. And if your summoner does end up hitting on its mill and summoning a card to your backstage, then this card loses the power, which kind of sucks. And even if you were deciding to play the yellow early play, you don't need yellow fixing at all. This is a card that usually a card like this you would want to throw in your level or filter like out of your hand later in the game, but unfortunately you can't just stuff this card in your level because you need to be putting other yellow cards in there if you're trying to play the early play. So this card's going to unfortunately find its way into your hand over the course of a game, and you really have no good way to utilize it outside the first few turns. But you really do need to run a number of copies of either this or the 3500 Bell here to be able to like do something at level 0 and not get completely farmed. So those are mostly the field plussing ones there, and then few more level 0s to talk about here. You have the Lilly coin flip. So beginning your opponent's turn, you flip a coin, or basically you flip a coin. You reveal top card of your deck. If it's a level 1 or higher card, this Lilly pops back to your hand. So one of the few true plussing level 0s in the set. Also has another effect where you can like your opponent guesses a number 0, 1, 2, or 3, and you mill the top card of your deck. And if your opponent guessed correctly, you get to draw that many cards plus 1. That's not the reason you'd be playing this card. It's a nice bonus. You know, sometimes you'll get to draw some cards for free, which is nice. Especially in the DanMachi decks that are running a higher amount of level 2s, whether they're running the the level 2 Bell combo or just more back rows and backups in general. The more level 2s you have in the deck, the better this card gets. So realistically, you might be able to draw a couple cards off it, but over the course of a game. But you're playing it for the coin flip effect. And the other secret benefit of this card is that you actually need to have extra copies of this card in your hand to play the Lilly off finisher, which is the best off finisher in the set, the yellow 3/2. For obvious reasons, you know, it's not consistent all the time. You don't always get it to pop back to your hand. You can't really count on the play a game draw effect to get you card advantage. But I think over time people are probably going to switch to this card. That's my prediction. I think over time people are probably going to like switch off of the ice, off the Bell, and probably run this card as it lets you play the off finisher. And can maybe get lucky and draw you some cards. Maybe. Maybe people switch to it. I haven't actually really got around to testing the card too much yet, but it's definitely something on my radar and something I think people should give a chance still. Next plussing level 0, we got this Ricky. It's a salvage Ricky for anything on play. And when you attack with it, you get to choose your trigger. So you look at up to 2 cards from the top of your deck, put up to one of them in the graveyard, one of them back on top of your deck, and trigger it. Yeah, so it helps you find your climaxes by being able to like accelerate yourself into triggering a pants if you need to, or trigger a gate if you need a plus. A lot of times, how I use this type of card is I'll attack with it, and it's look at up to 2 cards, so you don't have to look at 2. So I'll look at just 1 card, and a lot of times, if I'm in like a compressed deck state, I'll just stop at 1 card and see that it's not a climax, so just like a clean trigger, and I'll say, that's good enough, and I'll trigger that and keep the climaxes in my deck so I can cancel better on the next turn. But in situations where you need to mill through your deck, or where you're really hard up to get a plus in your hand, or you really need to get like a climax in your hand and you need to trigger pants to be able to play your combo on the following turn, being able to accelerate into that climax and just have that assurance to trigger a climax when you want, or to not trigger a climax, is very helpful. And overall, this is just better than the other Ricky in the set. The other Ricky in the set has you like reveal the top 2 cards of your deck and add any characters to hand, but that's not very reliable since you run so many events in DanMachi. So this is definitely the preferred Ricky to run. And the final level 0 I'd consider to be like a true plussing 0 in the set would be this On Death Rize. There's actually a lot of reasons you would maybe want to run this card. At first glance, it seems kind of awkward. Being an on-reverse effect instead of an on-play or even an on-death effect can be kind of awkward because you need to have it die in combat. You need to crash it into your opponent's character or them to run it over. So if they side attack it, you can't always get the effect off, which can kind of leave you stranded a little bit going into your level 1 turn in certain cases. But usually it's really not too big of a deal. Not hitting on event cards with the top check 3 effect is really the shit part about it, though. When you're sleeving up 8 to 12 event cards in your deck, you don't want to be missing this effect, because you don't have to mill the 3 cards, but if you do, then even if you whiff and don't get a character into your hand, you still have to discard. And that can be pretty damning, especially when you run so low on level 0s to begin with. If you whiff the top check and have to discard one of the only other playable cards in your hand, that can hit really hard. That can hurt a lot. But overall, the odds are still in your favor for going for the top check effect with it when it gets reversed. You're probably not going to strike out like that. Yeah, it can happen, but it's wise. Worse things can happen. And actually, there's not really a whole lot of good levelable red cards in the set. So even though you're probably not running this card as like a 3 of or 4 of, consider playing it as like a 1 of or 2 of. Even as just a 1 of, just to be able to shove into your level at some point to have red color identity. You do run a lot of red event cards, but you don't really want to be leveling those if you can help it, because you get value out of them throughout the game. But yeah, if you're not leveling this, you're probably leveling the Firebolt event, which is fine, but you do have a level swapper in the set, so being able to, at the very least, be able to switch this in to get a Firebolt out of your level later in the game has been very helpful. And then I guess there is one other level 0 I want to talk about, which is this the Hestia Event Rize. I don't even know what this profile's called, but it's on play. You can choose to look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, add an event card to your hand, and if you do, then discard a card. So unlike the red Bell and Hestia card I just talked about, even if you whiff the top check effect on this, you don't have to discard. You only have to discard if you take the event, which is nice. And in such an event-focused set, at first glance, you would think that this card would be super necessary. but in testing and with playing with the card, it just your level 0 spots are so precious and few to begin with, and this card just doesn't really do anything that your other pieces aren't already doing. Specifically, you don't need the deck speed because the Hestia Knife event that you get off the combo does it already for you. And even though like the filter effect, being able to exchange an event card from the top of your deck with maybe a climax in your hand that you want to send to graveyard, or maybe a higher level character you're not able to play yet, um, that can be appealing. That sort of like modular deck speed and filtering power is always good and wise. But between the torch event and between the brainstormer, which is going to be drawing you and discarding you a card, anytime you play it, the first time you play an event card each turn, you already kind of have your deck speed and your hand filtering covered. Especially if you have multiple Hestia Brainstorms down. Like, you really shouldn't need to be having that many issues getting through your deck or filtering your hand. So I consider this card kind of to be like training wheels. Once you get the hang of the deck, and this is all assuming you're playing the level 1 Bell combo with the Hestia Knife, I think try trimming down on these, maybe cut them all together. It's a card that I think is just not needed and is like a very overrated card at first glance, but I just don't think it really makes the cut when you really break it down. And now is the fun part. We get into the deck lists here. Got quite a few of them in this video, so if you're one to like to shop around and find a lot of different deck builds, you're gonna be very excited for this video here. Lots of different deck brews. But the first two that we're going to be taking a look at are what I would consider to be like at first glance, like first impressions of the set. This is what I'd consider like a meta deck to look like. And I've actually played these decks in tournaments, and they've done well for me so far. I've won both of the locals I've taken this deck to so far. So, yeah, it's not saying a ton, but the deck's been running really smooth. And it definitely feels like it plays to the strength that the set has. And it just seems like the most consistent, straightforward build you can make with the deck. But yeah, getting into it. 4 copies of the Brainstorm. I've tried running 3 copies of the Brainstorm, but since it's your early play condition you need in your clock for your Hestia early play, and since you always need to have like one on your field anyway, because you really want the filtering effect, and just having a Brainstorm on your field in general is a good idea. Yeah, like when I was only running 3 copies of this card, I found myself just not always having it in hand going into my level 2 turn when I needed to clock it to have my early play come online. So I would definitely, I don't think playing 3 is out of the question, but if you do, you got to be very, very sure to use your torch events wisely to be able to like maybe mill into a copy of this to grab on your opponent's turn so you have it in hand to clock. But yeah, I'd start with 4 copies and then trim it back from there. Continuing here, 3 of the Hestia Summoner, 3 of the Ice Chaser. Again, these are pretty much just the 2 best plussing level 0s the set has access to, I think. 2 copies of the Ricky. 2 copies of the Rize, on reverse Rize. Again, the Rize is not an incredible card, but it is red, so you can shove it into your level, and it does have Bell in its name, which you do need to have characters with Bell in name to play the Hestia sword event at counter speed. So definitely worth having a few extra cards with Bell in its name. A copy of the Drop Salvage. Also a really nice one of, since it gets an extra soul in your middle lane. So at any point in the game, if you salvage it with a firebolt or need to go for a drop salvage play, it can help you push damage in the center lane, which is pretty nice. And the last card here is at level 0 is the Tiona. She switches a card in your level and waiting room when you play it, which can be a good way to get your level 3 ice, which is your experience condition you need in your level to get hexproof and the extra power. So it can help you get one of those in your level if you missed it earlier in the game. Or if you want to, like, if you had to unfortunately level like a firebolt event or a bell earlier in the game to have your level 1 combo come online, you can like switch one of these Rizes in from your graveyard and get your combo pieces back. Yeah, I think the Climax swap is pretty much a staple, like one of in pretty much any DanMachi deck. Moving on to the level 1 combo, there's the Bell combo. 4,500 power, and then on your turn, he gets an extra 1,500 power for each of these firebolts in your waiting room. So between, brainstorming in the early game or using your Rize or the mill effect from the Hestia Summoner, and then when you hit level 1, being able to use your Sword Event to like help find your additional copies of your combo piece to go for the level 1 combo. You should be going through your deck pretty quickly, so you will have like a good amount of these firebolts in your waiting room already. So swinging for like 10,000 power should be pretty doable, pretty easy. And honestly, it's a really nice thing the deck does, being able to challenge standby boards at level 1 while still having a Global Soul combo that pluses on Climax play. On Climax play, you get to take the Sword Event from either your waiting room or deck straight to your hand. Kind of like Goblin Slayer. But where Goblin Slayer is on attack, this Bell gets you your event card immediately on Climax placement. So you get to thin your deck before you even go to your attack step, if you're taking them from deck. Yep. You need the firebolts to get to the high power levels with the level 1 Bell combo, and then the Sword Event. It's just look at top 4 cards of your deck, take a character to your hand. You need to have a Hestia or Bell on your field to play it, and you specifically need a Bell character to play it as a counter. So this is the part where like the set not having many good Bell characters is kind of a drawback, like a real true detriment. Because the level 1 bells don't sit very big on defense. They're going to get killed when your opponent swings back at you. So on future turns, you might have trouble actually playing the Sword Event as a counter, which is honestly one of the reasons I ended up throwing this 1-0 assist in the deck. If you watched our set review for DanMachi, you would remember seeing us talk about this 1-0 Bell assist and saying it's like the worst card ever. And it's not great, but it is probably the best other card with Bell in its name that is easy enough to splash into the deck. Again, there's this on-death Rize at level 0, but it's just too many events in your deck make it like too risky to use a lot of times. And when your deck's just trying to win power on offense anyway, the global 1,000 power from the assist it's fine. Attack on Titan does the same thing. They have a global 1k assist. They get big on their turn. They don't care if they're small on their opponent's turn. DanMachi's kind of the same way. So the card actually does kind of work in the deck. You'll play it because you have to, not because you really want to. But yeah, the assist is probably the best other Bell card you could play. Only have a couple level 2s here. One copy of the Fumio. On play, pay 1. choose a climax in your opponent's waiting room, and then they shuffle the rest of the cards back into their deck. Good way to decompress your opponent. If your opponent has all their climaxes left in their deck and thinks they're going to triple cancel you this turn, you can just shuffle all the clean cards from their waiting room back in their deck and stick them for a lot of damage, hopefully. Always a nice tool to have if your set has access to it. The Hestia also will blink one of your opponent's characters on play if you want to. So if your opponent also has early plays like your ice that will get cross-turn power, something like a Shirogane, you can blink it, make it lose its power, make your opponent lose their markers or any lingering effects they have on their characters from the turn before. Good against opposing Soul Wall decks. The character leaves the field, then enters as a new character, so it doesn't have the climax combo effect anymore. Overall, like really, really nice, solid one-up to have in the deck. Although I think if I were to make any edit to this deck as it is right now, I would turn this into a 4th copy of the Ice early play, just so I can see it more consistently, the early play. But yeah, playing with the Hestia Fumio has been nice so far. And then 1 copy of the 2/1 level 3 assist. Your level 3s in front of it get 2,000 power, and you can tap it to choose one of your opponent's characters. They can't play backups during the battle. So the ice will get that effect inherently, the hexproof, and turning off backups, but being able to like protect your Hestia early play from backups while also pumping it with this card is pretty nice. This card's only a 1-of. It's not like I'm really leaning super heavy into it. Again, this deck wins power on offense with the Bell combo and with the ice. And you don't really care if your bells get run over at level 1, and even without assists, your opponent's not getting over your ices anyway. So no reason to really lean that heavy into the assist game plan, but it is nice to have access to the level assist when dealing with matchups where power really matters, like against opposing standby decks, or specifically against something like Kaguya with their Shirogane, because your opponent's going to have their level assist behind their character, so they could potentially get over your ice if they have assists on their field. So being able to put your early play completely out of range of their early play is pretty important in that matchup. 4 copies of the Hestia early play. Really good early play healer. This is basically the second you hit level 2, you're going to be dropping multiple Hestias and an ice, hopefully. So try to save as much stock as you can going into your level 2, and then make sure you keep one of your Brainstorms in hand to clock so you meet the condition here. And then the finisher in the deck is the Hestia Finisher. On play, discard heal to stock, and climax combo, choose one of your other choose a character. It could be herself, it could be any one of your other characters. Give that character 2,000 power. No, they don't get power. They get they get an extra soul, and on damage cancel, burn 2. Yeah. It's a free on attack combo, which is nice. You're paying out most of your stock going into level 2 and throughout level 2 to continuously play early play healers or your ice early plays or whatever. So the fact that this finisher is just really stock efficient is very nice. If all you need is 1 stock floating after you play your early plays and attack 3 times, and you'll have 4 stock, which is enough to triple combo. And since there's no stock or hand requirement with the Hestia combo, you can filter very, very hard in the last turn of the game. Just like really burn through all your resources, all your sword events, your fire bolts, your brainstorms, any draw ditch effect to be able to like just go through your whole deck and find the extra copies of these Hestias you need to always get triple combo. The combo's not the greatest at killing people, but hey, it's something. And you can get pretty sneaky with it too. Something I like to do with it is usually I will like try to stack the cancel burns in one lane. Um, Usually the lane that I'll like swing last with. That way I can like kind of see how much damage my opponent eats, and then in my final lane, because your Hestia, when you give the cancel burn, you're also giving the soul. So your Hestia is going to be swinging for 4 or 5 soul. So you can actually like, if you want to trigger the cancel burns, you can just go for a big alpha strike of 5 damage. Um, or if your opponent's like getting closer to dead and you want to be a little more precise, you can go for like a cheeky side attack. Side your opponent's level 3 for like 1 or 2, and then still have the cancel burn assurance. Um, so you can kind of checkmate your opponent in that sense. Um, yeah, overall, I think this is pretty much like the de facto meta build for the set. Either this or the next deck here, which I've also messed around with, which is basically the same deck, but I'm splashing in some of the Ushiwakamaru sword events. It's just this red wooden sword. It draws a card when you play it. It's pretty unimpressive. But the bell markers it from graveyard along with the Hestia sword, which is, and the fact that he's also an early play healer, it can be really, really nice. This deck actually cancels pretty well, despite not having any like memory generation or stock charging. You're still able to cancel really well because of the torch events, um, allowing you to just burn through your deck state. If you don't have any climaxes left in your deck, you can just mill through your deck on your opponent's turn or your turn. So you can always make sure you can get through a bad deck on either player's turn, which is great. Um, and then playing with the additional marker compression is just a joy also. Very much like if you're familiar with decks like Gurren Lagann, Darling in the Franxx, anything else that has like early plays that put markers under it. It's just nice incidental compression before you refresh and go to your next deck. It's just 2 free cards you get out of your next deck. And even if you have to go for this after your refresh, you can still just play the events from your hand anyway. You'll probably have sword events left over in your hand. I mean, the Hestia knife events. Yeah, just make sure you have the sword in your graveyard. I was running like higher counts of these at first. I was on like 4 of the sword, 3 of the bell, but it was just way too clunky. Like, yeah, you could cut the fire bolts if you really wanted to have like, you don't need them to play the bell combo. The bell combo gets you the Hestia knife even if you don't have the fire bolts. But come on, like, this deck does like one thing good: swing for like 10,000 power at level 1. So don't hamstring yourself there. Play the fucking fire bolts. It sucks, but you got to. But yeah, there's just enough room in the deck to squeeze in like 2 extra early play healers and 2 of the event card. Yeah, the wooden sword's not great. It just cycles itself, but at least if you have your brainstorm down, you get like an extra draw discard as well. Otherwise, both these lists are pretty similar. I think theoretically, like from my testing I've done, I think like the core deck seems very strong. I think probably like an optimal list, I would really like to try to get all 3 early plays in the same deck. That way I can really have the flexibility to either double down on the healing game plan and just slime it up and just heal a lot. Really extend the mid game as long as I need to, and just get ahead, win the damage race with free heals. Or like, because the metagame's so standby focused, having the ice early play to be able to hit over my opponent's big board. It would be nice to have all of them in the deck, but again, when you're running this bell, you have to like start running the sword event, and you can't just run like one or two of the ice level 3. You have to have like 3 or 4 because you need one in level to have the condition met. So it gets really awkward. There's not a lot of free spots in the deck, and you can't really afford to cut into your level 0 lineup any more than you already do. So I don't know. You can maybe you cut this level assist. Maybe you cut a number of maybe one of the Hestia finishers. I think maybe like something that could work. What I probably want to try next is actually like 8 gate. Just cut the Hestia finisher. Just run a bunch of early plays and then like 2 or 3 of the level 2 bell combo. That's like an encore restander or some shit. Um, just because that combo is like extremely slot efficient. And would let me play all the early plays I want to. But yeah, overall, I think like if your metagame's more like standby focused, I would start off with this the ice early play deck. And if there's not so much standby and you want to heal a lot, yeah, try the extra spots for the bell early plays. I think they'll really impress you. And we're not done yet. Got a few more decks to go over here. These ones will be a little bit quicker since felt like there's more to talk about with those last 2 decks because they're kind of like the meta decks. But I have a few other ones to talk about here as well, if you're looking for something different. First one here is a deck by Japanese player Mary. I don't know this person personally, but I was linked to their Twitter account, and they wrote a very good article on this deck and its strengths. This deck has been performing really well in Japan, and oh boy, it is a spicy one. It's a lot of interesting cards in here. It's maybe even a little too spicy for my taste, but a very interesting deck, and the fact that it's been putting up results really makes me want to talk about it here. So, just going through the list real quick, and again, I'll link to his I'll throw the link to his article in the description below, so you can check it out yourself. But to summarize it here, Hestia Brainstorms, and one of this I don't even know this dude, but you have like he splits the Brainstorms because he's not running the Hestia early play actually, which is crazy, but he needs the deck spots for extra event cards along the way, so had to make the cut somewhere. So Brainstorms for the Ice Chaser, again, like probably the most reliable level 0 in the set. One of the Climax Swapper, one of this dude, he like shuffles 2 cards back into your deck when you play him, and he can side attack for free. And he is pumps power on attack, Shimakai. Yeah, solid card if you need some extra power. He is running the Hestia Event top checker. The Event Kome, I guess you could say. Even though I said earlier I didn't really like this card a whole lot in the more normal builds that are just running like 8 events, I think because he has like a much larger event package here of stuff he wants to be grabbing, these Pionkichi events, which you have no other way to like really get into your hand other than drawing them. And that's the big payoff card of his deck here. Having like the extra dig to get to it is pretty important for him. So in this build, I think it actually really works well. And then the last card we have here is this level 0 Bell JC-ish card. Going into your opponent's attack step, you can pay the cost. I think it's like pay 2, and you bounce him and another character on your field back to your hand. Very weird card that doesn't really do anything else. He has like a second irrelevant effect, so that's like all he does. I definitely see where Mary's coming from with this pick. It was a card I considered running in the my meta list from before, instead of like the Rize, just to, because you run so low on level zeros, being able to like actually get a +2 at level zero sometimes like just right. That's just like what you need. Um, and this card also does have Bell in name, which is helpful for the knife event. Um, but in his article, what he talks about is basically that it pairs very nicely with the Ice Chaser. The ice is a 2 or less field condition, and as I mentioned before, it synergizes kind of poorly with the Hestia Summoner, which can end up randomly filling up your field. Whereas this Bell will remove characters on your field, and then allow your ice to freely run around the field and get the power. So these two cards do synergize well together. And despite this level 0 Bell being another card that we rated very low, like F rating in our initial first impressions video. It's cool to see the card get some use. It definitely has like a little niche that it fills really well, being like a red Bell that also pairs well and kind of shores up your level 0. Something definitely worth testing, I'd say. I'm probably gonna like sleeve up a couple of these and try them myself too over the Rizes. Card seems like it reads really weak, but in practice, like allowing yourself to just run 4 copies of the Ice Chaser and feel good about that is probably like worth it. And then allowing yourself to like try field and still maintain advantage. So yeah, big ups to him for figuring that out. Um, Again, the Bell combo at level 1. This is one of the biggest draws to playing DanMachi, so just play these cards. Don't fuck around, play these cards. And then this new addition here, this spicy little boy, is a 1/1 event Pion Kichi. 1/1 event, it salvages a character from your waiting room to hand, and then you choose one of your characters and give it 4,000 power for the turn. That is a lot of power. It, if 10-5 with your bells wasn't enough, try 14-5. Holy moly. And even though Mary's not really running a lot of early plays here, he actually only has the one early play healer. And it doesn't even get extra big because he doesn't have the sword event. Being able to like, even though you don't have like strong early plays, the fact that you can just turn one of your level 1 bells that you have, it just lets you really lean hard into like just recycling your bells every turn, pantsing back your gates combo, and then just going for the bell combo every turn, swinging with like 9,000, 10,000 power bells, and pumping them up to 14k if you really need to. And like 4k power, that even turns some of your level 0s into attackers at that point too, which is pretty fantastic. Yeah, and then this back row wealth that goes with the Pion Kichi event. This is where you really start to see it shine. The wealth turns the event card into a 1/0 event, so he makes it free to play. So now with him, this wealth on the field, you have essentially a 1/0 salvage a character, give 4,000 power, which is like absurd, absurdly good. Um, and then his other effect is pay 1 and rest himself to look at the top X cards of your deck, take a level 1 or higher card, X equaling the number of Pion Kichi in your waiting room. Kind of like, in a sense, it kind of takes the place of your Brainstorm. If you wanted to free up some level 0 spots here, I think you really could. You could like cut probably a couple of the Brainstormers. Because like you don't need the Brainstormer for like an early play condition anyways. Because he's not playing the Hestia early play. And this kind of like fills the role of your Brainstormer. So like having that top pay one top check X effect. So if you wanted to like free up a few spots in the deck, you could probably cut like a Brainstormer or two because he kind of fills that role. But yeah, being able to play the Pion Kichis for free is like really really good. Um, and then just 4 copies of the Hestia Finisher and this Bell off finisher. He like burns for 1 and looks at top X for you when you play him. Jesus Christ. Talking for an hour straight is hard. My throat is killing me. Ugh. But yeah, really, really cool deck here. It's like definitely one of the most innovative decks I've ever seen in Weiss, and I'm a big fan of the spicy decks. And I come up with some pretty wild stuff, but I couldn't have come up with this in my wildest dreams. This is an incredible work of art here. And it's been putting up results in Japan. Some top players have been playing it and like taking down tournaments with it. So definitely something I'm gonna sleeve up and try. Um, and at the very least, I like not maybe not a huge fan of like 4 copies of this Bell necessarily. But the Pion Kichi event looks really really solid, and I definitely want to play with that card. So yeah, again, the link to the article will be in the description down below. Japanese player Mary. Um, then a couple like sort of like off meta E decks here that kind of threw together like for fun in my testing. We have this like standby deck. I wanted to try to make standby work in the set. Um, the set doesn't really have many good standby targets. You have a good level 1 target, but not even playing it in this deck actually. Just because the standby doesn't have any support in this set at all, which is something. It's the first time Bushy Roads released a standby set with like no support lately, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, you only really have like your payoff cards for going into standby are like this level 3 assist that gives 2,000 power frontal, and the characters in front of it get hexproof, which is really nice. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much it. Um, yeah. Um, but yeah, doing the set review, I remember like we got to red and blue, and we're talking about like the potential of having a stock charging combo, like building up into this event finisher. So I kind of like that you get to take full advantage. You don't have a good level 2 standby target in this set, so you use this other level 2 instead. This Hestia gets a bunch of power if you have a Bell, so it sits at like 10-5 if you have a Bell character. So part of the reason we're running so many of these Bell assists here. Um, and then on reverse, the combo with the pants lets you take 2 characters in your waiting room, put them into your stock. So stock charge yourself 2 clean, and then look at top 4 for a character, take it to hand. So it pluses you and stock charges you too. And yeah, like your stuff's always dying. Your level 1 stuff and level 0 stuff's always dying on the swing back. So you'll always have like lanes to reverse with this if you want to, and you'll actually like go positive on stock in hand when you like stand by these out and then go for the combo, which is really cool. And then yeah, you just build up a whole bunch of stock and you use these burn 3 events as your finisher. And this wealth that combos with him as well. He like on play top checks to burn your opponent for 1, and then when he gets a reverse, if for whatever reason you don't have like a mountain of stock, if you get a reverse with him, you can play one of these event cards for only 1 stock instead of 3 during your attack phase. So yeah, you try to just hoard the burn 3 events in your hand and then build a bunch of stock and fire off on your opponent on your kill turn. It's been a real fun deck to play around with. I definitely don't think it's like the most competitive thing you could play, but I think if you want to try a standby deck with DanMachi, you gotta like find a payoff somewhere. And I don't think playing a traditional standby game plan of just play a bunch of assists, play a bunch of 1-1s and 2-2s, and win board the set just is not built to win power on defense like that. So you got to play to your strengths, and I think standbying into like a more sort of like aggressive game plan, I guess you could say, of like aggressive combo-y, like you're standbying into like your next climax combo for the following turn to like build a bunch of stock. I think that's probably something you want to be doing. Also to note, this set doesn't have 8 standbys unless until the shot promo comes out. So like if you just buy a playset, you don't even have access to 8 standbys. So you're not really missing out though. But I think this deck's pretty cool. If you want to try standby, sleeve this up, give it a chance. And then I'm the madman. I actually did it. You know, people say we don't look at our feedback. We do. Shoutouts to a True Gamer King commenting on our red set review. Talking about that level 0. Second most bannable card in English. And I said in the deck tech, everyone told me, Andy, you can't do it. But I'm a doer, and I did it. I solved it. We have the first ever Weiss Schwarz FTK combo deck. That's right, baby. First turn kill. Yeah, the cat's out of the bag here. This is the combo. You have this level 0 Freya. Like, on play, you can clock yourself and mill the top 4 cards of your deck. If you hit this specific 2-1, you can put him directly into your field. And let me tell you what this 2-1 does. When he's in your center position of your field, he gets an extra 5 levels. That's right, level 7. And he gets, like, extra power as well. And then this Freya also is a level assist to your middle lane, which is a weird effect on a level 0, but it works extremely well with this. So basically what you're going for here is your opening turn, you're going to be like hard mauling pretty much for like this Freya. And yeah, you're going to try to play as many of these on turn 1 as you can. And try to see if you can get lucky and get one of these otters onto your field. And you might say, Andy, that's just not consistent enough. You're just not going to hit it. Why sleeve up all these bad cards when you're just going to draw them over the course of the game, and you're probably not going to get the big payoff? And to that I say, that's why we're playing 12 choice triggers. That's right. These level 0s here also count as choice triggers when you have a climax in your field. So, this garbage 2-1, perfect card to shove in your stock with a choice trigger throughout the course of a game. Ramping yourself into your finisher, which actually, if you can get like double or triple of this ice finisher off, you can actually confirm a lot of damage on your opponent. So, yeah, like having the potential for like a turn 1 like unkillable card that's just going to sit there for the rest of the game and you'll never lose your center lane is pretty enticing. And even if you don't live the dream and get it turn 1, you can always just stuff these into your stock with all your choice triggers, which is great. And then the rest of the deck is pretty much like generic 12th choice DanMachi. You have the choice combo at level 1 and the choice combo at level 3. Yeah, I don't really like the choice combo at level 1. Kind of sucks, but lets you play 12 choice. So that's something you want to do. If you want to play this bad boy, I suggest trying it out. Yeah, so we're at the end of the video now. Here's some closing thoughts for you. I don't think DanMachi's like a top tier contender. Like even looking at like the quote unquote meta decks for the set, like if you're going for just like a traditional like heal spammy early play deck, focusing on like the mid game, winning the mid game really hard with your level 1 combo, and your big early plays. Or if you're trying to go for like, I mean, Mary's deck does the same thing. Honestly, you're just getting huge at level 1 and level 2 with the bells powered up by the event packages. So I think that's the set's niche, and I think that's where it's going to see play, competitively speaking, like looking like from a spike-ish competitive mindset here. Um, if you like a deck like Slime, if you like being able to like have a lot of early play healers and play that early play heal spammy game plan, um, with 8 global soul triggers, but still want the ability to be able to challenge your opponent's standby boards with the strong level 1 combo, and the ice early play if you choose to play it. I think that's like the niche where DanMachi finds its home. Um, but I think that really defines the set as like more of an anti-meta deck, and I think it's overall doesn't have the tools right now to be like a mainstay meta contender. But in the right meta, it feels like it could really put up some results. Um, yeah, or if it gets like a set two, I think a set two would really help this set a lot. Honestly, it just needs like a few more good level zeros, a couple more good cards with Bell in name, and a better finisher, and like the set would just be straight gas then. Um, and honestly, maybe like I haven't tested these other builds, but like 12 choice, not necessarily my spicy one, but just like a more traditional 12 choice deck, just playing good cards. Um, or honestly, maybe even like bar choice. I think that would honestly be the way to go because that choice this level 1 choice combo sucks ass. It really does. But I think like the bar combo at level 1's like actually all right, but you just can't play it with event cards because it top checks you and doesn't add event cards. Um, but being able to free yourself from like the hefty event packages, like you could really use those deck spots for a lot of the more like good techie cards or maybe some of the smaller event packages the set has access to. So I think like 12 choice or like bar choice could also be like a really strong deck that DanMachi has, but I think everybody like at this point is brewing around with the event stuff because it's more fun and unique. But yeah, bar choice could definitely be worth trying out for sure. Yeah, that's my thoughts on DanMachi in the competitive metagame. Again, set's coming to English next year in 2022. Um, and how honestly being able to challenge those big standby boards when you have stuff like unrestricted data live in English and Kaguya running rampant with no bans is like DanMachi can like compete with those two decks. It fights on the right axis, I think. So deck definitely something to be on the lookout for. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to us. We're almost at 1,000 subs. That would be super cool. If you could give us a sub. Here's the slide we put in at the end of everything. If you want to hear Carmen talk about it, you can go watch one of our other videos. Um, and yeah, thanks for sticking with me to the end. Pittsburgh White Schwartz signing off. We'll see you next time.